Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator. Here on America's Next, we have Kamille Tynes in the house tonight, and I just want to let you all to know our show is about energy, the episodes, the stories. Hopefully, what you're getting here is energy, and more energy. And so sometimes we might have difficulties. Everything's not going to be perfect, but we get in here to rock the house. That's what we do. I have a video of our guest tonight. I'm going to give you a taste of what she does, and then we're going to dive directly into the episode. So, you guys, give me a second. I'm going to pull this episode up real quick. 1 second. Kamille Tynes in the building tonight. Check it out.
My name is Kamille Tynes, and I'm the creator of Connected. Connected is a centralized platform that allows child welfare servicing organizations to connect so that they can save time, money, and lives. The problem that we're addressing today is that the child welfare system is broken. It's overburdened, it's complex, and digitally disconnected. There's no centralized way for all organizations that are servicing youth and families to communicate. And this leads to great breakdown in information, delayed services, and oftentimes where the organizations or the actors can't do their job. For instance, one of the biggest issues that Connected is solving is that lawyers cannot access their clients or their information with ease. And this inhibits their ability to best advocate for the youth and their families and the services that they need. Additionally, there are also issues with outdated software information systems and little to no oversight and poor quality data. All of these affect and lead to the broken system. Why this is so important is that at any given time, there's over 400,000 youth that are in the foster care system. Each year, about 23,000 of those youth leave or age out of the foster care system when they turn 18. Their lives are impacted by the system, and they're caught in a cycle of poverty, incarceration, homelessness, and human trafficking at higher and alarming rates than the national averages. One young lady who just recently lost her life from not being connected or where the system failed her is Micaiah Bryant. Micaiah Bryant was a young lady in Ohio who, when the police came, assumed she was the aggressor and took her life. Although there's many allegations and information surrounding the situation, the facts of the matter that we do know is that Micaiah was failed by the system. What we do know is that Micaiah had only been in that foster home a couple months, but yet for the last decade, there were over 17 police reports made out to that foster home.
Wow.
What we do know is that there were other individuals there who were in an altercation that were adults. And what we do know is that her younger sister called and asked the police and asked to be removed from the home frantically.
Hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, Kamille Tynes. Here she is right here, everybody. How you feeling, Kamille?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm feeling great. You know, really wound up at the content of the video that we were watching. And I know that was a pitch for your company, your tech endeavor, but it's just got me really amped about the lives of youth in the foster care system, my life, your life, the community at large, and how we need to continue to have spirited conversations such as these involving solutions. So in the second half of this show, we're going to talk about the solution that you're creating. But right now, I want to talk about your story, your story. Kamille, where are you from?
I'm born and raised Detroit, Michigan, baby. All day, every day.
Okay. All right. Detroit, Michigan in the house, everybody. If you've been watching America's Next Motivator, you know that we always meet great people from Detroit. And Kamille is no different here. So happy to have you here and eager to see exactly how you've decided to represent for your family and for your your upbringing. Now, everybody out there, whether you turned in from Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Facebook, YouTube, we appreciate you. If you're on our live chat here on Facebook, drop a comment, ask a question, and be a part of our assembly today. Now, Kamille, talk to us about your childhood. What was going on in your life at around 5 years old?
So my childhood, like almost anybody, everyone has challenges growing up in life. But my childhood was filled with a lot of difficulties. So in my home, I grew up in a home that had domestic violence and severe abuse. And so it was actually really challenging. And that was age for me that was, in my mind, I didn't know how pivotal it was, but it actually became the moment that I got interjected within the criminal justice system and the child welfare system to a somewhat a degree, not fully, but got exposed to it because there was some abuse that happened in my home, and my mother tried to get some assistance. But as life is, and as sometimes as the justice system is, things just aren't fair, and justice sometimes doesn't befall you. So around that time, it was some abuse and things that were going on that shouldn't have happened, and kind of didn't really get fully addressed by the system at that time. So then later on, things exacerbated. And as you'll learn later on in my life, how things kind of got a little more chaotic and out of control. But so at that point, it was, that's kind of how it was.
I like to explore the context of your coming into the world. I think it's important to know, did you ever find out what was going on in your life, in your mother's life or your father's life before you were born? Like, what was the context that you were born into?
Well, I'm learning that now. So I think it's so important to not only learn who you are, but try to learn either your parents or whoever raised you, whatever community you come from, their life experience, both the positive and the negatives, and looking at it from a very non-judgmental lens and not assessing it. I know I said positive and negative, but not assessing it in a way where you either inundate either positive or negative assessments to it. So I am learning now that I hit 30 and I've just really been on my quest to become my highest and best self. I've really been doing a lot of self-reflection and wanting to see what were some of the struggles that my parents faced and what are certain things that they did not overcome, so that I'm aware of my own strength, weaknesses, vulnerabilities, habits, things of that sort. And so I know I don't know that much about my father's past. I did know that he came from a household that had abuse as well. And so abusers sometimes, people that were abused sometimes become the abusers if they do not address their issues. That's not always the case, but for my father, that was the case. And for my mother, she came from a household, two-parent household, but may not have always had the right support or guidance that she needed as well. So a young woman trying to find her way in the world too. So basically two young people trying to make it the best that they could with the circumstances that they had. So that's right.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I am one of 6, 3 boys, 3 girls, and I am the second oldest, first oldest daughter. So I love my brother, but I'm like,
Right.
When you're the daughter, you take on everything anyhow as the leader. So, but yeah, I'm the second oldest.
Okay. Now, what was the energy like between your brothers and sisters when you all saw the dysfunction in your home as children? Did you all acknowledge what was going on, or did you just kind of do your own thing? Did you all know what was happening?
I think to a degree as a kid, we saw what was going on, right? We saw the abuse that was happening to my mother, but also the abuse that we were experiencing, right, from the hands of my father. So we were very aware of what was going on. However, something that I've had to learn, that going through therapy, that I had to become aware that I did, was that I kind of disassociated. So sometimes you can get used to abuse. You can get used to the chaos. You can get used to all of the pain and the trauma of it. And in a response, your brain trying to protect itself can either do fight, flight, or I forgot what the other term is too. But what I kind of did was become numb to it. So you know it's there, but you can even be going through abuse and kind of put it at the back of your mind and zone out. So for me, at least, I know you have to ask some of my siblings how they went through, but from seeing them and how I processed it too, oftentimes it was zoning out and just taking it because there was nothing you could do. There was no way to get help. And when you're going through abuse in the home, and then when you reach out for help, whether you're calling the police and they come out to your home and nothing happens because they're friends with my father, who was the assailant, it puts a level of hopelessness in you. And so that was kind of the situation that we were in. We would go for help and nothing would happen. So the only way that I knew that we knew how to deal with it was just to take it. So
did those scenarios where you all call for help and help really didn't come effectively, meaning it's like no one came and believed you and, let's say, arrested the assailant? Did that ever, as time went on, did that cause you to mistrust like law enforcement or the authorities at all?
Not at that point, actually. At that point, it was, at least for me, I would be like, okay, they're wrong. They just know my father. This person is just wrong. I didn't look at it as this whole institution or system or people as a group. As I just thought it was those individual things. But it did let me know that I could not expect for help to come from others.
Right. Was there ever an attitude in your communities? Now, this is even outside of your household, that, oh, you can call the police, but they're not going to do anything. They're going to come late. The police are going to come, hours later. They're not going to do anything. Calling the police doesn't mean anything. Was there ever a notion like that for you as a child? Not at 5, but let's say, 10 years old, you're out playing around. Was that notion ever around for you?
So in the community that I grew up in, yes. And in my specific household, it was a little different because my father was friends with a lot of people, and he had an ability to have a position that was of influence. So when people would come, when the police would come, nothing would happen. It was multiple times, and they'll just be like, oh, okay, it's you. And it's just like, hold up. Right. You heard the 911 tape of us asking for help, and then nothing happened. So you do get a sense of nothing will happen. So to kind of clarify what you're asking, like in my community as a whole, yes, we know typically cops don't show up or they show up late, but specifically for the instance when we called for assistance for the police within our own home, when they would show up, it was, from my experience of it, was they were friends with my father, or they gave him deference because of his title, position, and kind of ignored us. Not kind of, but flat out did.
So this is a reality that thousands of youth, children, and adults face, in America, that, there's abuse going on, but there's no real help. And a lot of the time we normalize it, we get used to it, we tune out, and, I also spent years of my life in foster care. I remember sharing my story or my experiences with an adult, and they would say, well, that was abuse. Wow. Hold on. Let me tell somebody this. Let me bring another professional into the room, because he's describing abuse. And sometimes you don't even recognize it as abuse. You just say, oh, this is what was happening in my life. That's the extent to which we tune it out. And it's unfortunate because if we don't have the conversations about the existence of abuse in our communities and what it looks like and all its different faces, then we also can become abusers. And this contributes to, different pipelines. You look at the prison pipeline, you look at recidivism in foster care, and you just look at, different correlations, different connections, if you will. I don't know that we ever unnormalize abuse, that we have enough conversations about abuse, all its different faces, and do enough job of getting it out of our communities. All right. So go ahead.
I would like to add to that. You're right. A lot of us aren't fully in our communities informed what abuse looks like, but also, unless it's the extreme versions of it, right? But also we need to become more aware on what are the coping mechanisms, right? So some people will go off and become addicted, right? So whether it is to drugs, alcohol, sex, but then also you can see some people, especially with young people, either self-harm or get into fights, or even sometimes when a kid oftentimes the young people in the foster care system are misdiagnosed. They've gone through a trauma. Any kid that has gone through the foster care system has trauma. Attachment theory lets us know that even at an infantile stage, at a few months, when a child is separated from the parent, it messes with their neurological system. Like literally how their brain wraps around the thought of going through the system and how their brain and their cells are firing off and communicating with one another. It affects them. And so what happens is children that have been affected with trauma, they display certain behavior patterns that are similar to like bipolar, ADHD, but oftentimes it really is complex PTSD, right? And so when you have medications and different things that are addressing, say, bipolar, ADHD, what you'll see is it may slow the child down or manage it a little bit, but not fully. But when you actually start addressing the trauma and take a trauma form, and not just trauma informed, but a trauma-based therapy approach, then young people start some of those aspects that you see that look like bipolar ADHD starts falling off and they get better. And so that's the thing that we have to be aware of. So sometimes you see a kid depressed, or you see they have obstinate defiance. I don't really believe in it. I think that's a part of kids' development. But you see the kids acting out, or even overcompensating through excelling. So that was one of the mechanisms that I did, because my household was so chaotic and things were out of my control. What I did was, when I entered into the foster care system, I was afraid like any other kid, but I didn't display it. I didn't look like a typical kid that went through trauma, right? Whatever that means. And so the way that I did it, I suppressed my emotions. And when I was the first day in my foster home, the foster parent asked me, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm fine." Now, realistically, anybody with a half a brain would know a person that just left their parent, was taking from them, don't know what's going on. They're smiling and saying, "I'm fine." In a complete stranger's home, they would know that something's wrong with the kid. But because I was taught to play like I'm fine, because I grew up in that abuse, and when we would get in front of people,
that's right.
Like we have the perfect family, even though we're going through abuse behind closed doors. I took that with me when I went into the system. And so looking at me, initially I had great grades. I was student government, National Honor Society, in almost every sport that you swim, tried to do track, everything. And I excelled. However, what I was doing was I didn't understand intellectually what I was doing. But what I was doing specifically was getting so busy to the point that I wouldn't have to think about what I was going through. So that was actually another way of me coping with it. And so we have to become aware of the different ways that young people and people in general are coping with abuse, coping with just struggles that they're going through, so that we can, as a community. And when I mean as a community, I don't mean just, I love my Black African-American community, but I mean as a community of people in the world, right? As a community, we have to become more mindful and empathetic of one another and of the processes that are at play when people are going through some type of trauma or abuse, so we can know how to assist them better.
It is so huge, the different ways that you discuss the way that we cope or show up in the face of trauma. When you talk about overcompensation through excellence, I can identify with that. I wonder how many other people look on the surface like everything is fine right now, like they're the exception to the rule, like they've got it all under control, and in reality, they are dealing with the same emotions, the same hurt, the same frailties of the kid who can't stop fighting.
Yep.
You know, the kid who can't stop stealing, the kid who can't pay attention. All of these people have different levels of trauma, and what we also need is people who can have a plain conversation with us, an honest conversation, who can get through, who can say, "Listen, I know you've been through some things. I know deep down inside you're hurting. I know that you're wondering what's going on in your life. You're in this new thing called foster care. You might be scared, but I want to meet you there. I want to meet you. I want to meet you in that authentic place that I know exists in you, and I want to work with you from that point into whatever greatness you choose." I think we lose that level of an authentic conversation when you're always dealing with somebody who has a specific title. A lot of the time, your job title, your job description does not entail a downright authentic, powerful conversation with a young person who's in the system about their true feelings
Exactly.
and the rehashing of their story and building them up from there.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
how old were you? How old were you when you first heard a motivational speaker, or you were in a ceremony where you heard that level of a conversation about life? How old were you?
I think the first time I didn't know he was a motivational speaker per se, was when I was in high school. My principal had brought in, I went to Southeastern High School, go Jungleers. Whoop, whoop. But I went to Southeastern, and my principal, she brought in a young man who talked about his life, and he was really inspirational. And he was just talking about some of the pitfalls that he went through, some of the challenges. And that's when I could connect with his story to some degree of being in the hood and struggling coming through. Some other aspects I could not, but that was like the first time that I really heard something that kind of clicked with me. And that was inspirational. And I think it's so important that in whatever our professions are, we have to be authentic. And sometimes, I included, can get used to being in these platforms and our roles and being these professional folks that we don't speak or communicate the truth of life, or the truth of our pain, or the truth of just life's journey with people. And there's a disconnection. And sometimes we lean upon degrees and titles as though that gives us an expertise to reach someone, when technically those are nice pieces of paper that we worked for, but it's the scars and the journey of our life that really connects with people. And so in my time working with young people as a youth advocate and as a social worker, I had to learn to balance some of what I've learned intellectually, but more so what I knew from gut, from living through it and working with kids. And it was in the moments where I was just real about not fully my struggles with them, because they didn't need to know too much, but knowing that I understood the similar struggle. So a little authenticity about me and who I am and why I do the work that I do, but then also really listening to them and letting it be known that it's okay to hurt. It's even common to go through abuse, although it's not okay, but it's common, and you're in a safe space to communicate when you're not okay, right? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to talk correctly, right? You don't have to be perfect to say, hey, I'm valuable and worthy of love and support because I'm breaking down right now. When we have those authentic moments with people and let them just be who they are, especially young people, that's when we really can connect with them and support them.
So what we're raising awareness about tonight is the need for that undying, unconditional, raw conversation about life. We call it sometimes motivational speaking or inspirational speaking, but what it is, even under that title, is somebody being vulnerable and somebody expressing their soul, so that they could connect with your soul, because that's really the way to pull me up, is that you have to indicate to my soul with your soul, so that we can move forward together. And that's not always something that you can learn in school.
Nope.
It's something that we are slowly but surely realizing the value of, is that we need to actually be able to have a soulful conversation with these young people if we're ever gonna affect positively the outcome. Because they're simply not listening. Children are not listening. Parents are not listening. A lot of people have been traumatized, and the people we get through are the people whose their decibels are up, their tone is serious. They're ripping through your false reality. And that person shouldn't always be a rapper. That person shouldn't always be a preacher preaching Christianity when you're not a Christian. That person shouldn't always just only be that one principal that shows up in your life, that one coach. That person needs to be more of us, putting the formalities to the side and breaking through to the human in front of you in order to help them get their breakthrough. Okay. Now, with that being said, talk to me about middle school. What was it like for you?
So, and before I say that, I think what you just hit on is the human experience, right? So all of these things in society that we put on, and they are very valuable and important to us. So our religious belief system, our racial identities, the communities we come from, all these different things, they are valuable and important. But at the end of the day, sometimes we forget to connect with someone at the human level, at the journey, at the life level. And that's, I completely agree with what you're saying there. Through middle school, it was a journey of really just trying to stay safe. By the time middle school hit, my family had moved out to another city, and we were isolated from my family, our family from Detroit, and things had got bad to the point where we believe that there was some sabotage that was done to our boiler. And so it got really cold in the winter. So we had to move. We moved with my father out to another city. And that's kind of when the abuse escalated for me in middle school. And so throughout middle school, for the most part, I was not in school. So some people don't know. I graduated from the University of Michigan, which is an amazing honor and blessing. And I thank God for that. And yes, I am smart, but what people don't know, there was a lot of moments where I was not in school because my family and I, we were on the run for my father. And actually, you're getting more authenticity out of me than anybody else. No one really gets this side of the story.
This is what we do here. Go ahead.
Because I know our purpose is to motivate and inspire, and specifically to reach someone, a young person and a person that's come through a similar experience or going through right now. I'm willing to be a little bit more open and vulnerable than usual. But so throughout middle school, I mostly was not in school. We were living in domestic violence shelters, running and hiding from my father. Because once we moved out to where he was, the abuse escalated to the point where he knew he had all the power. And it got to the point where we didn't know if he was going to kill one of us. And so my mom had to make the courageous decision to just leave. And so I didn't know that we were leaving. All I knew was the day before she was like, get some stuff together. And the next day, some people from this safe house was there to take us. And that was one of the most scariest moments of my life. But I still, if you look at me, I never freak out, right? I never like, that's not me. I get really calm. And so when it happened, I remember I only had like a couple things and we left. So middle school became an introduction within running for our lives, living in domestic violence shelters, and going from shelter to shelter and school to school. And I was not a good grade. I did not have good grades in middle school. Actually, I had one moment where I thought we had stability and I flourished. But then as soon as I found out we had to move to another shelter because the time was up, I went from coming out of a difficult situation, being on the honor roll, to then finishing middle school with all D's. That's something I never tell anyone because emotionally I couldn't take it. And the way that I processed it, now I understand this as an adult and someone that's worked within child welfare and understands a little bit more psychology and like child psychology. What was going on with me at the time was all of the instability was affecting me mentally and emotionally. And because I didn't have really an outlet for it, what happened was the depression had set in and all these different things. So then I was just like, whatever, with my academics. So I really wasn't an unruly or wild child in a sense, but the way that I expressed myself through academics, my grades suffered then. So middle school was that. It was very much a up and down roller coaster. And the introduction to me learning about the foster care system, being entered within the foster care and child welfare system.
You relate to so many thousands of people across America today when you talk about how you were in flight mode. You had the potential, you had the intelligence, you had the talent, but you just couldn't express it that way because you and your whole family you guys were in flight mode. Yep. And so many of us are going through that right now. What I wanted you to talk about high school before we go into the break, but even before then, what do you say to encourage the young person out there right now who's in flight mode who might come across this episode?
Don't give up. Believe in yourself. Believe that there is a higher purpose, whether you believe in God or not. Believe that there is someone out here waiting for your voice to be spoken, someone waiting to hear your voice. You have power. The power is in you. I know it's difficult and I know it feels like it cannot and will not end, but this too will pass. Time will go on. And I know it sounds like a cliche, but if it did not kill you, it cannot break you. Wow. You are the only one that's in control of your life. Nobody and nothing can take your life from you. Only you can do that. But I promise you, if you keep pushing, if you keep holding on, something will break, and it will be you breaking whatever obstacle that is in your way.
This is a powerful American story that we have here tonight with Kamille Tynes. We have a comment in the building from Cleveland's Triumph magazine. They are a phenomenal publication chronicling the stories of triumphant people who live in Cleveland. People who've been through things like me, myself, and you yourself. We need publications like Triumph Magazine to point out the people who rise to the heights that make us great examples for one another. They said, great job to both of you. Thanks for sharing. Keep doing the work. And so we appreciate Cleveland's Triumph Magazine. Now, Kamille, can you talk to me a little bit about high school? What was it like for you? How did you round out that experience?
So high school was at 14. So August the 30th of 2004 was when I was taken from my family and put in the foster care system. And that was 13 going on to 14. That was the actual year that you enter high school. Yeah. So for me, I entered high school entering the foster care system. So it was one of the most craziest, hellish, hectic moments of my life to be removed from my family, and not removed because of the abuse, but removed because of lies. So when we went through so much abuse, the system was never there for us. But my father was able to use his relationships and his position to lie on my mother and say she wasn't taking care of us when really we were running and hiding from him. And when the shelters wanted her to get child support, which he should have paid for us, but because he didn't want to pay child support, he wanted to lie and say we were left at bus stations, all these things, which wasn't the truth. And so instead of the system actually looking at the trail of abuse, listening to us and investigating, they removed us from my mother. So the moment when we were being abused by him, they did nothing. But the moment she actually ran and tried to get safety and help, then we were removed. So that was the scene. I came from being in a domestic violence shelter and then having a social worker talk with me. And I remember her words to me specifically when I was like, where are we going? What are we doing? Because I didn't know what was about to happen. And my mom was like, just go with them. And I was confident that I was going to go back home with my mother. So I didn't take anything with me. I just had the clothes on my back, and I took my little sister's The Wizard of Oz book with me. That was all I had, because I swore and I thought I was coming back to my mother. And so I got in the car with the CPS worker, and I asked her what was going on. And I was just like, this is what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And she looked around and turned and said to me, I've heard from your father what you said. You can't control anything with me. And I'm like, wow, excuse me? And I was like, wow. And so that was when I got put into the foster care system, and I got enrolled in high school by the foster parent. And that was really when you're really coming into yourself, becoming a teenager, going to a high school culturally that I wasn't even used to. Just being in the side of the city of Detroit that I'd never been to prior to in my life. It was new place, new people, new everything, and away from family. So it was kind of the worst thing that could happen, was entering high school at that time.
One of the biggest concerns about foster care in America is the way that it seems you can get taken away from your parents when it's really not necessary, or there's not really substantial reason to take you from the home. You know, sometimes it feels like you get placed in foster care for a random reason and your life is forever changed. That being said, I see your story as a phenomenal testimony to the youth who are in the foster care system. The reports that have been written up about you are not accurate, because the teachers, the professionals, they're writing about a child who's going through unknown trauma. They're in flight mode, and yet the potential to be outstanding still lives within. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Kamille Tynes. We'll be right back with more of her story after the break. Don't go anywhere. America's Next Motivator, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator, hosted by me, Cedric Riley, sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network and our viewership. And we're back. Kamille, how you feeling out there? You feeling all right? Hello? How you feeling, Kamille?
Hey.
Hey, now for those people out there who might be wondering how to tune into our show, we have a TV show page on Facebook. It's called America's Next Motivator. If you type in America's Next Motivator in the search bar on Facebook, our entire catalog will pop up, and we're live on that page. And so find us on America's Next Motivator TV show page on Facebook and join our community. Now, Kamille, we're talking about your perspective as you move through high school. Did you meet any mentors or people who had a powerful influence on you while you were in high school?
So while I was in high school, I did, well, it's a yes and no. It's kind of a yes and no situation. And I'm putting it up here so everyone can see that, yes, we're live on my social media too, so that they can access it. Okay. But in high school, I would say I didn't per se have any direct mentors. Then I did have different teachers and people that I respected and looked up to. And they became, in a sense, like my pseudo mentor. So whether like my high school counselor, JaVale Hawkins, Ms. Hawkins, or Mr. Hogan, those are different people who showed me a level of support and encouragement while I was in high school. And then one person in particular, although it wasn't per se a mentor, Miss Teresa Lewis from Communities and Schools. She was a spitfire woman. Woo! She was the community grandmother. So she had the ability to give you tough love and sweet love all in one. So she, I would say, was pivotal in me, in a sense, discovering my voice had a little bit of power, because she gave me the opportunity to join her at Channel 7 for an opportunity to have lunch with, I forgot the young man where he was from. So someone that was over, I think, just the regulating like the airways and things of that sort. And when I got to get the tour of Channel 7, I remember one thing she said, "Where's your business cards? Where's your business cards? And speak up." I'm just like, I don't know. You didn't prepare me for this. But she showed me that moment that no matter who you are, your age, you can hang with the big dogs because you're hanging with me. And so your voice has power in a sense. So Teresa Lewis, I love Miss Teresa Lewis dearly. She was someone that was very pivotal. She may not even know it. She also came through with the resources. So there was a time where I was doing well in school, but I started struggling because I couldn't see the board and I needed glasses. And government health insurance only allowed you to have like that one pair of glasses for the year. And if you broke it or lost it, you were screwed. And that was my case. Although, again, I was a foster kid. So I was struggling. I couldn't see. And Miss Lewis, through her resources as just being a phenomenal woman of connectedness herself, and also through Communities and Schools, she was able to help parlay get me like a voucher to get some glasses. And she was like, I recognize that brand and things of that are important. So she was like, I'm going to make sure it has a little extra in it so you can get something that's nice and quality, because she knew that, kids would bully you, pick on you if you didn't have nice stuff. So she made sure that I was able to get something nice. And I add a little bit of my own money that I saved up to it. So her being in my mind like a pseudo grandmother / I guess you could say mentor. She wasn't per se that, but she filled in that gap to a degree, and meeting me inspirationally, but also with resources. That was a big help in high school.
In these moments where people like Miss Teresa and the other outstanding adults, they pitched in to make positive comments. Is that where you realize that, listen, I'm getting ready to go to college and I'm getting ready to be my best self? Is that the summation of your senior year in high school?
Nope. Not at all.
Okay. What was it?
Actually, it was, I did a summer program called Gear Up. Gear Up is an awesome program. It needs to be in every school. And I hadn't actually really thought about college. And they had us
Hold on.
I know.
Because what we're getting ready to find out is that you are one of the best and brightest in America. But what were you thinking? Okay, you've been through all these things. You see the light because somebody like Miss Teresa is telling you, listen, I'm taking you to the news station. You will arrive if you stay on this track. What were you thinking as you graduated high school? What were you thinking?
So one, we really didn't have conversations like that about college. It wasn't until they really put us in gear up did we have those conversations. And two, a lot of the people in my high school did not go to college, right? It was really commendable if you made it to community college, which is still great within itself. Mm-hmm. And so that really wasn't the conversations being had. And then in addition to that, I was just in survivor mode, man. Like, you got to recognize that I was going to court every 90 days. I had to learn how to, I'm becoming an attorney. In court, my attorney she went on record. She advocated to put me back with my father, but she failed to read the case report or even talk to me to see the previous testimony that I had to testify about the abuse that I went through with him. And so, because the attorney didn't know who I was, she went on record and said that I said I wanted to go back with my father and all these things, but the court had already knew that wasn't the case because I had already testified. And the judge had to ask her, have you met with and you spoke with Kamille? And even had to ask her, are any of the kids present? Now, the judge and everyone in there knew that I was present because I had previously testified. This attorney came late to the table. So she looked around the room and said, no, look me. So where my mind was, so I actually in that moment went and had to stand up and say and testify again and be like, no, Your Honor, I did not say that. I've never even met her, never even spoken with her. You guys already know what I said of the abuse that I went through and why I don't want to go back with him. Although I want to go back with my mother and I want to get out of the system. If I can't go back with my mother, keep me in the foster care system. Wow. So for me, that's what was going on in high school. I didn't have time to really get caught up in high school drama or anything because it was life and death. It was me trying to get back to my family. I was focused. So senior year, I'm like, okay, I'm fighting in court for myself. I don't know what's next. I really want to go back home, but I don't have housing. I don't have nothing. My social worker doesn't care about me. She'll lie with a quickness in court, won't provide any resource, and is just really dogmatic and hellish. So I had no support. So for me,
wow,
high school, senior job, and just make it, right? Stay out of trouble and just make it. And it wasn't until like doing a summer gear up it made me think about going to college because they had us do a whole activity of what college you're going to go to and get your undergrad. What are you going to go for grad school? And I said, I didn't even know. So one of the people in the program was saying, you're going to go to University of Michigan and Ann Arbor for undergrad.
Like almost joking.
I didn't even know about U of M like that. That's what people don't even know. No one knows this.
Wow.
I didn't know how prestigious U of M was. I didn't know any of that. I wrote it down because they told me to put that there. And then I was in a robotics program, engineering robotics program in high school. And so I was like, well, I like building and programming robots. So I did mechanical engineering and undergrad at U of M, and then I'll go to Harvard for law school because I know I want to advocate for people because I hate how my attorney did in court. Right. So for me, I did that exercise with Gear Up, put that in the back of my mind, and just went into survival mode, figure out where you're going to live, how you're going to have a job. And so my senior year, I had enough credits where I could have actually finished a semester early. But because I didn't know what I was going to do, I was just like, you know what, let me get a job. And then later on, once I said I wanted to go to college, I did get a little bit of support behind me from my school, from like Miss Lewis and my counselor. And then also some detractors who were like, we don't go to Michigan. You ain't going to go to Michigan. You better go around the corner to Wayne County Community College District. Wow. I had to kind of ignore those voices. And again, no indictment on them. They just weren't used to seeing that, right? Mm-hmm. So when I got into Michigan, me and some of my the other students at my high school, it had been, from what they told us, over 50 years before someone from my high school graduated from the University of Michigan, from my high school.
Yes.
For them, the reality was, we don't make it at Michigan. We don't go to college. Right. So what I had to do was zone out those voices and do whatever I needed to do to get back to my family. And so then later on, somebody told me, my admissions counselor, once I talked to the guy from U of M, Shropshire, cool dude, still phenomenal to this day. He encouraged me that I could do it. And so I applied and then got in by the grace of God, and was just so excited for it. And it opened up an opportunity for me to see that there was more. So that's when high school starts shifting. I was like, okay. They're like, you can have opportunities. You can have money. You don't got to fully work. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. They're like, you got more opportunities if you go to college. I was like, okay,
It sounds like.
Let's do it. When I got in.
Hello? Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like the universe started shifting in your favor. The momentum, the energy of your life, your destiny started to take place. And you got into college. And let me get this straight. You actually decided to get into activism, becoming a servant leader. Talk to me about what your life has come to during and since college. What are your current endeavors?
Okay, yeah. So yeah, as you said, things did start aligning up more for me. However, there still were obstacles. Anytime it seemed like things were going up, something would come to knock it down. And that too is, I want the audience to know, that's a part of life. Those ups and downs, nothing is ever perfect. And just because you're up one moment does not mean you'll be down the next. But that's okay. That's a part of life. That's a part of success. That's the moving up, graduating from high school and going into college. I got involved actually with activism and community development while I was in high school. And then later on, did more of that in college. And I was really blessed and fortunate to be able to connect with people at the University of Michigan that helped bring some of my ideas to life. So as someone who went through the foster care system, and when I graduated from high school, I had literally nothing. My social worker told me there was no money to go to college. There was nothing. She was like, you might as well just go get a job at McDonald's and figured out we can't help you. So I almost did not go to U of M Ann Arbor. I almost went to U of M Dearborn or didn't go at all. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. A couple people do, because I didn't think I could afford it. So in college, what I did was, when I saw that I had areas where I was struggling, specifically but when he walks like me, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that the president's office was right there, the Fleming building. And so I walked in there and I said, hey, we have a problem on campus. I know we can't do anything while I'm a student, but there's going to be other people that come through the foster care system that are going to come to Michigan, and we need to create a program to support them. And to my surprise, U of M, they had me meet with the director of Ombudsman and the director of critical incidents from the Dean of Students office. And she allowed me to have a space to start creating a program to support foster youth. And so that kind of is really where I started building up my ability to have like a skill set to create something. And so we started building a partnership with DHHS, Department of Health and Human Services. And it was, call it Universe, Divine Alignment, God. For me, I'm a faith believer. So I believe it was perfect timing that as soon as I built this, was building on Blaven, who had an idea of creating a scholarship for former foster youth. So what I was building, what I developed, they put it a part of the scholarship program, and now it has supported, I believe, almost 100 students thus far.
Wow! And
over 90% graduation rate of former foster youth getting their degree from the University of Michigan.
Wow!
So, I'm like,
hold on. Let's slow this down. Because this is phenomenal series of events. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get some hearts and likes in the building for Kamille Tynes. She reminds me, and she puts me in the mind of so many outstanding young people who go through the system, who have it in them. They have it in them. And she's an example of what you can be when you don't give up, when you dig deep, pay attention to your surroundings, and then make room for somebody else. Make room, raise awareness, and assist somebody else. So over 100 students have benefited from your involvement on campus. And did you develop any programs? Did you become an entrepreneur? Like, what is your occupation now today?
So yeah, I did develop some of the programs of within the Blaven Scholar Program, but I also, after graduating, while I was still in undergrad too, I worked as education coordinator, youth development specialist. So I've actually been in youth development, community development, youth development for over 10 years. My degree and certifications are in it as well. And so being someone that's always been in the community about connecting resources to people, organizations, institutions, it led me down the path where I worked even for the government for a moment, helping doing like contracts and grants management for my county in Washington County. To then I saw another need, and somebody inspired me to to dig deep and think about taking what I would love, what I typically volunteered and did for free, and turning it into a business. And so in 2016, I started my consulting company, Tynes Consulting LLC. And I didn't really know nothing about it. I just knew, you guys have a problem, I can help you get a strategy, we get it done. I'm gonna get it done purposing. And so it went from that to then being blessed to do different workshops with the University of Michigan, with the other partners, to do like a state of Michigan policy summit, to different things of that sort that allowed me to use my passion, my skill set to be, to influence a community in such a way where we could solve problems. So now what I'm doing after working within youth development, from whether social worker, youth advocate, youth advisor, to being an advocate in the court for youth and everything in between. So now I do a couple things. I'm working to develop a software that is called Connected, that will help foster youth, their families, and child welfare providers, including those that work in the courts, have information accessible in one place and be able to communicate with each other with ease. So I'm using my work right now and my passion to create this software and work with my local Wayne County Juvenile Court to help them, as I'm chairing the Youth Engagement and Systems Improvement Committee within the Third Circuit Court of Michigan.
This moment right here is one of the things that makes you one of the most important people in our country today. We have to come to the realization that it's technology that we have to incorporate into ensuring the positive life outcomes of youth and care. One person can't do it all.
Nope.
One person, you can't be in all 50 states and all 51 territories of the U.S. and
nope.
You can't multiply and duplicate yourself.
Nope.
We need technology at this point.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to make a change, your big idea has to involve technology, automating your solution so that we can make it available to the near 500,000 youth in a foster care system and their parents and their workers and their professionals.
Yeah.
Technology is the key. And so I want us to definitely champion this moment with you. Technology will be the key. Technology is going to bring hope. Technology is going to do a better job than one human being can at ensuring positive life outcomes for more young people, as opposed to just pointing out one as the exception over the other.
Exactly.
I've got 3 questions for you as we round third base here. Again, I want us all to find Kamille out there, follow her, support her movement. Technology is the key. She gets that. That's a gift. Kamille, what is survival to you?
Survival is, in a sense, just making it through you're created to be. It is, in a society that tries to make you conform, it is being yourself, and that's survival / being a rebel at the same time.
What is success to you?
Success is defining your own value for success and your own measurements of it and achieving it. Success is so relative. Society tells us you should have this and that, but oftentimes it's hogwash and BS. So for me, success is me going after my goals and achieving them. So whether that's about personal or professional or relational, that's for me.
What is greatness to you?
Greatness is all of us. Greatness is becoming your best and highest self. That's what greatness is. Because you can be right and have a top position, but if you are not tapping into and being fully who you are and pouring out everything, you're not great, even if society says you are. And even if you come from humble beginnings and you never become a CEO, but you are the top at being the chef or at loving people, that's greatness. So being your fullest and highest self and being self-aware in a non-judgmental way, seeing your strengths, your weaknesses, and being open to others telling you your blind spots and moving forward, that's greatness.
Kamille Tynes, I want to let you know that we've listened to your story today. I love the way that you continue to achieve, push forward. Even when it looked like you couldn't make a way, you still found a way, and you're here with us today. We're giving you your respect inside this hour on America's Next Motivator, and we're giving you your crown while you're still here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Put your crown emojis into the chat. we are letting you know, letting the world know that you, Kamille Tynes, you are America's next motivator.
Hey, thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping by today, all right?
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Each and every episode of America's Next Motivator is going to have something here for you. All you got to do, just like you did tonight, stop by and pick it up.